something whizzed past my head and went like sploosh in the pond. It didn't look like a deer. It didn't look like a dog. It started freaking out a little bit because it started walking over that direction, which is where my car is. And I was like, oh God. You know, I was one of those kids who would always, when we went to the library, check out any books on UFOs or the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or anything like that, anything that seemed weird. And I have a memory from when I was like really little, like sit on your mom's lap kind of little, and we were riding the monorail at the Toronto Zoo, and it went through like this forested area, and I saw a Bigfoot like standing in the forest waving at me, and I was like, what the heck? And I remembered that my whole life. I'm 47 now, but when I was 40, I was like, maybe I should Google that, like Toronto Zoo, Bigfoot. And it turned out that in like the early 80s, there was someone who like dressed as a Bigfoot and did that for fun for about a month at the Toronto Zoo. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't see a real Bigfoot at the Toronto Zoo, but because of that experience at the Toronto Zoo, whenever we'd go on long car drives, I would have my face like glued to the window looking into the forest being like, any Bigfoots in there? Any Bigfoots in there? I saw this movie come up called Discovering Bigfoot by Todd Standing, and I watched it and I was like, oh my God. And he was showing how out in, northern Alberta in Nordag off of a logging road, he found these like structures that Bigfoot had supposedly built. They were like kind of like teepees, but they were made out of big trees and logs. And he's like, yeah, that's a sign that they're here. We don't know why they build these things. I saw that movie and I thought, I wonder if anybody in the Bigfoot community online has reviewed this movie, what they think about it. And I hadn't ever gone into that community online for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I searched around and I found a guy named Utah Sasquatch who had posted a review. And he said, yep, they totally do that. They make those structures, but you don't need to go to northern Alberta. Sasquatch are everywhere. And so then I messaged him and I was like, what do you mean everywhere? And he's like, dude, there's millions of them, not like 1,000. And he found them within city limits in Utah where he lives. So he's like, here's what you do. Go to Google Maps, find a place that has water, like a fresh water supply, lots of cover, and prey animals, and go there and go off the trail. And I was like, well, there's a place like that 5 minutes from my house. And I lived right over there. And so at lunchtime, I just got in my car and drove down here. And over there is the trail that we walked on to get here. And I just came down the trail a bit and took a left turn straight into the thick woods. Not even 5 minutes later, I found one of those teepees.
Okay, so I'm 6'1", just to give you an idea of scale.
And I was hooked so bad. I was like, okay, well, this could be a coincidence. Like maybe somebody put these sticks here, or it was weather or whatever. But I kept searching there, and there were lots of things in there, probably 10 or 15 of them.
Like I said before, there's no weather protection here, like outside, inside, right? What is it for? I don't know. Does it make me interested? Yes, I'm interested in this.
And I basically tried to find the people who seemed to know something about the topic and asked them everything I could about it. What about this? What about that? How can I see one? Like, how can I increase the odds? What are the best practices? All this kind of stuff. And here and there, I would get suggestions about what to do. And there was usually an emphasis of respecting Bigfoot. In many native traditions, Bigfoot represents honesty. So that's like, don't try to pull one over on them because they'll know. Also, don't try and joke yourself because you know in your heart what you're doing. So whenever you're going into a situation where you're trying to find Sasquatch or Sabe or Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it, go with respect. And one time I didn't, and that's why we're right here in this location. So I spoke with this guy online and I said, I really want to have an encounter. And he said, well, you need to find a place where there's a clearing in the forest. Hopefully there's water around, still look for the good spot, but then find one where there's also a clearing. And he said, go there when it's a new moon. That means there's no moon in the sky. It's the opposite of a full moon. It's no moon. Ideally, there's also cloud cover, because then it's dark. And I said, why? Why would I want that? That sounds scary. And he said, well, you want to be in that clearing, making yourself very vulnerable and giving the Sasquatch maximum advantage. You have no night vision, they have great night vision. You have no cover, they have lots of cover. So they're interested in humans, and he thinks that's one of the reasons why they make those structures, or I think that. And so they want to come in and check you out, but they won't if they think they're going to be seen or caught. But if you make it very easy for them to see you and very difficult for you to see them, they'll probably come in. He said, just hang out in that clearing. Don't have any weapons or anything, because some people think they can tell what your intentions are one way or another. A lot of people think they know what guns are, maybe because they've been shot at in lots of places. I don't know. But so I came out here and I walked down this path, which is only maybe 500 meters long. We're within city limits, by the way. Like, this is in London city limits. You can probably hear cars in the background. I said, okay, I can do that at night. I can go there at night. It's close to my house. I feel safe. It's a clearing. There are houses nearby. I waited until a new moon in May 2021. And I came out here at 2:30 in the morning. It was 0 degrees Celsius. So cold. And it was pitch black. Like, you could not see a thing. And I just walked from one end of the path to the other end of the path. And then I came back to where we are right now, which is roughly halfway, let's say. And I just stood. And I was standing roughly right there. And after about 15 minutes, I started to hear some really heavy footsteps over there. Like, thump, thump, thump. And I was like, okay, could be a person. Could be a person. And then I heard some really loud branches breaking. Like being snapped. Something really loud being snapped. And I was like, oh boy. It started freaking out a little bit because it started walking over that direction, which is where my car is. And I was like, oh no. Because it got to about that position over there. And I was like, is this thing going towards between me and my car? Whatever it is, even if it's like just a person trying to freak me out. I don't want to have to go through them to get to my car. And so given how loud it sounded and that there was nobody was saying anything, I just kind of got out of here and I was freaked out. But I was so intrigued. And when I got home, I was like, darn it, why didn't I stick around to see if it was a Bigfoot? Why didn't I shine my light? Why didn't I do this or that? I waited till the next new moon to come out here. And I said, okay, I'm going to go with a heat vision camera, right? And that way, even if he's over there in the heavy cover, if he's there, or she, whatever, the Sasquatch, or the person who's just in the woods at 2:30 in the morning with 0 degrees Celsius, freezing their butts off, breaking branches, I should be able to see something. So I came down here and I didn't hear anything over there, but I heard something over on that side of the pond. And I could see something moving around with this thermal camera. And it looked like it was kind of reaching, but it was all down in the weeds and I couldn't make out like a clear outline of anything really. It didn't look like a deer. It didn't look like a dog. It was just kind of something moving around. And something whizzed past my head and went like sploosh in the pond. And I was like, oh God. Like, I don't know what that was, but it came pretty close. And so I think it came from over there. So I turned around and was looking over there. I couldn't see anything with the thermals. And another thing went by this side of my head, like probably within this far because I could hear it whiz by. And it splashed in the pond behind me. And then 3 more times that happened. And I was like, oh crap. Like, I didn't think about this before, but like trying to be sneaky with a thermal camera is not respecting Bigfoot. If that's what it is, And I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, I've brought some high technology out here, and now there's big rocks or something. It sounded like a rock the size of a softball hitting the pond behind me, which if those hit me, like, I'd be in severe trouble. And at 2:30 in the morning, like, my wife wouldn't notice that I hadn't come home or whatever. After those rocks came, I hightailed it out of here, and I thought about it for a while, and then I came back out at the next new moon, and I just stood here saying sorry for a while. Sorry for bringing that thing down here. I shouldn't have done it. You know, it wasn't very respectful, whatever. And one rock whizzed past my head and went in the pond, and then nothing else. No sounds, nothing. I was here for probably a half hour after that. That was it. One rock whizzed past my head. I didn't hear anything else, and I just took that to mean, like, thanks for the apology, but, like, also we're not going to interact with you right now. Just go home.